The Rainbow Tower. Written by Alex Tymms. Illustrated by R H Stewart. Episode 34. Orange. Katie was standing behind them. She wore an odd expression, as if steeling herself for a fight to make herself heard. Jed wondered what was wrong with her. Trevor had always welcomed new ideas or opinions. "Good," he said, turning off the phone, "because we haven't." Katie looked taken aback, and her expression softened. "Remove the lift," she said. "They've done it between orange and red and put in stairs and an escalator. You know, stairs that move." Graham made a humphing sound, at which Katie looked ready for a fight. "Well, it takes 20 minutes to transfer on that lift. How many stories is that we'd have to cross?" he asked belligerently. "Well, don't listen," that Katie began. No, wait," Jed interrupted, and he pulled out his phone. The lobby was filled with green light clashing harshly with the orange chandelier above. "Look," he said, walking through the plans. "I know the slabs between the colours aren't shown here, but I'll show you how thick they are. We know orange begins at floor 312 and yellow ends at 310. Jed peered more closely at the area as Katie joined him. He couldn't help but be distracted by the lines that drew patterns over her face. She didn't seem to notice. "Which means the slabs are only 3 to 4 metres thick," Katie commented, measuring the distance between her fingers. "Exactly," Jed agreed. "Just the same as the one we climbed through from indigo to blue," Silas said. "Then how come the lift takes so long?" Graham asked. "Can't you guess?" Clarice replied. "It's like everything else in this place. It's done so we're fooled into thinking the divisions are bigger than they actually are. It takes ages to transfer, so it must be a long way between the colours. It stops us from trying to cross the barriers on our own and makes it a big thing when we do so officially. Smoke and mirrors, yet again." Jed turned to Silas. "Do you have people who can tear out the lift and its workings?" Silas grinned. "Well, while they're doing that, those who can should climb up the recycling and water pipes. We can lower ropes or ladders from here to make it easier." "We need to watch Swenson doesn't throw things down," Katie said as Silas ran off. "I was nearly hit by waste. If you hadn't opened the valve when you did, I'd have been down with the monster." Jed looked confused as he shut down the phone. "But that pipe wasn't vibrating. There couldn't have been waste in it. It was a small load. That's why it took me by surprise. I guess I should have said thanks instead of punching you in the face. Well, now, hadn't we better open up the stairs inside Orange? A lot of people are going to arrive here soon." She walked away, leaving him to stare after her. "As I said, hormones," Graham muttered to Clarice. "Come on, you," he went on in a louder voice, slapping Jed on the shoulder. "Start concentrating or we'll never get out of here. I'll sort out ladders and ropes. You and Clarice go with her," he nodded at Katie's back, "and open those stairs." "There's another lift lobby along here. The stairs should be just beyond," Jed said, navigating his way round without using the phone. All the main elements of the building suddenly made sense to him. They fitted together in his head, so at last he could see the tower as a whole instead of being divided up into bands. He reached out, trying to feel the building, imagining people swarming up through every tube and pipe, all climbing for their lives. They rounded a corner and skidded to a halt. In front of them, constructed from desks, chairs and other furniture, was a barricade blocking the lifts. It seemed Orange had obeyed Swenson's call. "You strikers won't get through here," yelled an executive from behind the barrier. There was a chorus of agreement from others peering between the tangle of chairs and table legs. "Fair enough," Jed shrugged. He thought for a moment. "We can cut through these offices," he said to Katie and Clarice, indicating a door to his left. "Hey!" yelled the man from behind the barricade. "Where are you going?" Jed opened the door onto a room with tables of green marble with gilt legs. As the others went in, he turned to give the man the same smile that used to annoy Simon so much. Jed and the others arrived back at the transfer lobby, just as the first refugees climbed up through the hole where the lift had been. The new arrivals stared round in wonder at the rich surroundings and the gaudy chandelier hanging above. Jed had a look at the new stairs. They were cobbled together from boxes and crates. "Well, they're a bit steep, but they'll do," Silas said, joining him. "We have marshals directing everyone to the main stairwells," Jed said. "It'd be best to avoid the lifts. The oranges have blocked them off." "Oh, they'll learn," Silas said with a shake of his head. "Just like they did in yellow." As he said this, a group of yellows filed up the new stairs. "We also need to look out for enforcers," Clarice said. "We didn't see any, and neither did Graham at the recycling and water pipes." Silas grinned. "Don't worry. We've lads that can take care of them." Jed frowned. "You do realise that most of them are builders from Violet that Swenson has brainwashed in some way?" "Well, that explains why they hit so hard," Silas said, rubbing his chin. "Well, go easy on them," Jed said. Silas raised his eyebrows. "Is that before, after, or during them knocking the life out of me?" Jed didn't know what to say in reply. "Ah, don't worry," Silas said. "I know what you're trying to say." As he spoke, Jed recognised someone coming up the steps. It was Marjorie. Jed pulled the torch out of his pocket and went up to her. "Thanks for this," he said. "Ha!" she exclaimed, clearly out of breath. "We're not there yet." She dragged in a great lungful of air. "When we're at the top, then you can give it back to me." She looked around, her hands on her hips, as yet more people filed through. "What dreadful taste!" she exclaimed. "And that chandelier!" "Keep moving," one of the marshals called, and Jed was swept towards the nearest stairs. The climb up through Orange felt even longer and harder work than it had been coming down. The stairwell was crowded with puffing and panting people, making it hot and noisy. At least the oranges were all still defending the lifts, so there was no resistance to overcome. As he reached one of the landings, Jed stopped. He was sure he was on a level with his father. Maybe if he went back into New HR, he'd have time to release him. The tower had collapsed the corridor. Surely it could break the bone holding his dad. Maybe he really wasn't going to die after all. Jed put his hand on the door handle. He had to try. He didn't abandon anyone, even if they'd abandoned him. "Swenson will be expecting you to try to rescue him." It was Katie. He hadn't noticed she'd come up behind him. "You'd never make it." Jed was about to turn on her. What did she know? This was his father, for Tower's sake. However, before he could say anything, there was a shout from some way above. "Are you Jed?" a young boy asked, pushing his way through the flow of people. "There's trouble," he panted. "At the top. They need you." Jed looked at the door, then let go of the handle. He nodded to the youth to lead on, and Katie followed behind. Jed felt odd. Everything had changed. Not so long ago he was ignored, was a non-person at the bottom of Violet. Now they were sending out runners to find him. He shook his head as he pounded up the stairs. They arrived at the top of Orange and emerged into what had been the transfer lobby from Orange to Red. Just as Katie had said, the lift was long gone, and a brightly lit tunnel led between the two colours, an escalator dividing two flights of stairs. At the top of these stairs, Jed could see the cause of the trouble. White-robed enforcers thronged a huge barricade erected to stop anyone entering Red. Thank you very much for listening to The Rainbow Tower. To see more of R H Stewart's excellent artwork, you'll find him on Instagram at roy.hootson.stewart. For Alex Tymms, why not try the novel OutCaste at ao3.com? Or, for something completely different, check out the Amier series on YouTube or at amier.com, also by Alex Tymms. The Rainbow Tower. Text copyright Alex Tymms. Illustrations copyright R H Stewart. The right of Alex Tymms and R H Stewart to be identified as the author and illustrator of this work has been asserted in accordance with the Copyright Designs and Patents Act 1988.